Hi, I'm Bella. Welcome to Paging Creatives. Pursuing a creative career can be a frustrating, isolating journey. So I sit down with working artists, taking risks, forging their own paths in hopes to inspire and educate and form a community of artists where we support one another and even network and hopefully just push all of us to pursue our creative endeavors. Today, show number 2, I have the amazing Tyler, the athlete in the house. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here with me.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's get started. Just tell me a little bit about you, where you're from.
Of course. So my name is Tyler. I am from New Jersey, born and raised. Went to school in Philadelphia, and kind of been all around the entertainment space. And a lot of it was through self navigation. When I first got out of college, I always wanted to work in music and didn't land that job. So for me, I worked a 9 to 5 and quickly created my own way into that space. So I was managing an artist for about 7 years, and once, probably by year 6, it was when I really wanted to just kind of start exploring different opportunities. By that time, I had moved out to Los Angeles, and it's always not today, but usually it's sun shining and people are outside, you're active, and I've always been into fitness. And a lot of people typically would ask me like, "Hey, are you what are you doing fitness? What are you doing fitness?" And from there, I was just like, it was during the pandemic, and I'm gonna try it. I'm just gonna go for it. Um, Found someone doing a commercial on Backstage and hit them up and was just like, "Hey, I see you're doing this Nike commercial. It might not be this one, but is there an opportunity for me?" And he loved my look, and we got dinner one night, and he was like, "I want to build a spec commercial around you that I want to pitch to, one of the big brands." And that was really the start of it all. So I think it was actually November 1st, 2020. We shot an entire Under Armour commercial, and I was the center focus. And he actually showed it to a friend of his once he finished putting it together, and they were like, "Hey, does this guy act?" And it was that comment that actually sparked my whole interest in acting. And now, you know, I focus on fitness, acting, still doing the modeling, but really like acting has just become the true passion of mine.
Okay, you have to tell everybody how we met because it's a funny
Of
story.
course. So funny enough, the first movie I ever was in was a project that I got casted for background, and God was looking down on me and got bumped into a supporting role. So when they had the premiere, I've never walked a red carpet in my life. And it was thankfully for Bella, happened to be there. I want to say she was behind me, and she was just like, "You can't you shouldn't be waiting on this line. You're a star. Get up there and go and take your place on the carpet." I'm like, "Can I do that?" She's like, "Yes, you can."
Because you were in the movie
I
and he's
literally
so humble and just standing there and waiting. Like, that was it was the craziest carpet I've ever. It's not supposed to be like that. It was the
Mhm,
craziest. So many people were there who weren't supposed to be there or who weren't even in the movie. I
for
wasn't
real.
in the movie and I had done my red carpet scene before. I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You're in the movie.
So I
Go
mean,
ahead.
literally my guiding force in the industry. I'm like, you be my agent at this point? Because I mean, just you've been a blessing to me. Just that experience, and then from there we just hit it off completely, and then just inviting me to different events, and kind of just introducing me to the industry. So definitely owe
Oh.
you a lot for that.
Thank
Of
you.
course.
Oh, and to you too, because we're both something that will be a resounding theme through all of this is that we're both Christian.
Hmm.
And I think that I use that as a way to cope and maintain my sanity out
Hmm.
here trying to pursue this career. And there are lots of times where I'm having a hard time on set and I will hit you up and say, "Can you say a prayer for me?" And you
Always.
do. And that supports me. And that helps. Like, you just have no idea. How important is it for you to maintain your faith while you are on this journey?
Faith is everything. I truly believe God has had his hand on my back from start to finish. Um, Growing up, my mom always used to tell me, "You can do all things through Christ that gives you strength." And that is something I've carried with me from every single day because, you know, you don't just wake up one day and become Michael B. Jordan. You know, he had to work and get to that point. Um, you know, people call it luck. I call it being blessed. You know, you got to pray for it. You have to work for it. You have to be in the right room. And so many times there's been so many things that I thought was going wrong. And, you know, I'm like, oh man, this this has gone wrong, or damn, I made a mistake. And it actually turned out to be the best thing to ever happen. And that's God. So
Agreed.
you really just have to have that faith and just, you know, hold on to your faith because I feel like being out here in Hollywood, it's so easy to get caught up in other things. And that's something I kind of notice. I'm like, I feel like not a lot of people have that faith. So just having faith and just holding on to it and then just realizing this is a dream, but God didn't give you that dream if he didn't think it was a reality.
Agreed. Do you think so? You talked about the corporate world. Talk
Hmm.
a little bit about that because when we met, you were still at very much a corporate job,
Yep.
very much getting a check that you could depend on all the time.
Yep.
And when you take that leap of faith into this and you don't necessarily know, like, well, how am I going to pay my rent this month? So, what was that like?
That part. It was probably the biggest transition and definitely, you know, I will be honest, it was probably one of the hardest but most eye-opening things ever. You know, I feel like you're not truly going to see that success until your back is against the wall, until you need to just bet on yourself. And, you know, when I did leave that job, I looked at it as a blessing because it was one of those things where I knew I wasn't going to do it myself because you do get comfortable, even though, you know, acting and is something I always want to do and something that, you know, is my dream, is my passion. Having that check coming in on that biweekly basis, it makes it very easy for you to stay and very easy for you to, you know, just feel comfortable. And the moment that's gone, you're like, okay, well, how am I going to make my money? How am I going to, you know, ensure I can maintain my lifestyle and not have to scale back or have to, you know, go back home to Jersey? So it's really just a leap of faith. And, you know, I'm thankful for that opportunity that I had in corporate world. I think it really helped me ground myself. That's the word, ground myself, and, you know, learn how to, you know, speak to others and do different things. But it's one of those things where it's like I can always go back. This is something that I got to make happen now, and I'm just happy to, you know, finally be just going on my own and doing my own thing.
Yeah, I've never had a corporate job. So it's always been frightening for me. And sometimes people are like, I don't know how you do that. And sometimes I don't either. I think it's, I can do other things.
Hmm.
I can skate, I can sing, I can whatever. And I know you're also an athlete.
Hmm.
And it's great. I want you to talk about the fact that you were doing these specs and then you shot a huge Nike campaign.
Yes. It's I mean, it's really just been a passion of mine ever since I can remember. I always been involved with different sports, and when I went to college, I was doing track in high school, and mainly I pole vaulted. I knew I wasn't fast enough to probably run at a college level, but I was like, okay, you know, I probably can pole vault in in college, but it my college for some reason didn't have field events for men, so I was just like, all right, well, I'm not going to just sit on my ass. You know, I'm used to getting up, working out in some capacity, and that's really when I just fell in love with lifting and just really saw my athleticness start to shine because I'm like, okay, I can do all these different things at, you know, a very very high level, and just sticking with it. I consider myself very disciplined, so, you know, maintaining a diet, um, just a love for the gym, a love for different things like that, and being able to use those gifts to, I guess, find other gifts. Um, I never thought of myself as like, you know, maybe I can get into the fitness modeling space or utilizing it for acting or anything. And it really wasn't until I came out here and you see and you're surrounded by all these different types of creatives. And I think that's what's important, who you surround yourself with.
Mhm.
Because, you know, when I was on the East Coast, I'm around everyone working a 9 to 5. And people thought it was weird when I started doing the music thing on the side. And it's just like, oh, well, that's not realistic. And when I brought up the idea of doing like fitness modeling, why? like, and you're constantly caring about what people think. Where here, it's the norm. The gym I go to, uh, around in my area, every single person is making content. And it's just like I love to see it because, at the end of the day, we're all gifted in our own way. And you can use, these physical gifts that you were given, to provide a lifestyle for yourself.
You can.
Mhm.
Is your family okay with that, or are they frightened for you right now?
It's funny, because I that was something I was initially worried about. My dad's from Barbados, so I don't know if you know West Indian parents. They can be a little bit more by the book and
Yes.
be, really like focused on, oh, you need to, get a steady job and things like that, and going to school. And I have to say, my family is the biggest supporters I have. My mom and my dad show everyone every single thing I've done. And like they, I guess, sort of know how to use Instagram now. So they're pulling up my Instagram for people. They're showing people my scenes I've been in and commercials I've done. So they're super supportive. And that's what means the world to me, is that having that support, from both my close family, extended family, cousins, people I don't even know. People are just hitting me up on Instagram, just so proud of me and just like being like, "Oh my God, you're famous." And I'm like, I haven't even done anything yet. But, to them, it's just a big deal because no one else they know has done those things. So it's
Right.
it's really cool and really nice to have that support.
You haven't been doing this that long, but have you gotten to a space of where you felt any discouragement or any frustration?
Um, I mean, I think with anything you do, there's always going to come, times where you're feeling like, am I doing enough? Am I, making the right decision? Am I wasting my time? And I think that's just normal with anyone. I'd be lying if I said that those thoughts have never crossed my mind, because there's probably millions of people trying to do what we do on a day-to-day basis. But it's pushing through that and overcoming that. I think that's what matters the most, and that's when I really start seeing that growth. But for sure, I know anytime you really think you killed an audition and you're like, I'm gonna book that one. And especially sometimes for the fitness ones, I'm like, oh, this is a description written for me. And then you don't hear back. Yeah, it's a little bit of a letdown, but you can't book them all. You just kind of gotta forget about it and just move on to the next one.
Yeah, there's this interesting, it's a spiritual quote in from this book that I had, this woman called Florence Scovel Shinn, and she just
Hmm.
talks about just being positive. And she says, "You've never seen a worried or an anxious magnet."
Hmm.
And so I find myself to be demagnetized when I'm super attached to something, like I gotta get it, I gotta get it, I get it. And then the things that I don't really care about, it's just like, oh, you booked it. So trying to just like have that audition or have that opportunity and then just let go of it.
That part.
But then
That
how
part.
do you take care of yourself, or how do you feed your creative soul when you're in that space of like, maybe I didn't get something, or
Honestly, classes have been a great outlet for me. Um, I'm blessed to have found an acting coach that, you know, I truly love going to class. I love the people in my class. Everyone's so supportive. And each week we get a brand new scene, unless we're bringing a scene back. So even if I'm not actively booking something, I know, okay, well, every Monday night I'm going to be able to hop into a new character and really kind of, you know, like I guess appease my appetite for acting. So that's something I really look forward to. Just kind of talking to other people and supporting their journey. If one of my friends is booking something, I'm gonna be right there in their corner cheering them on. So it's
same.
just like it's basically like I got that part. So that's really for me how I really can like appease my own creative if I haven't booked anything in a while. And I just booked my first commercial last week, I think it was, and that was
Oh, I
I
didn't
was
even know about that.
oh well, not my first commercial. I've had commercials before, but it was my first one in like a couple months, and I just was hitting a dry spell, and I mean it happens. And other people I know, they're like, man, I've been doing the same thing. Like I haven't booked anything in months, and I'm like, you're gonna book something, and you just kind of gotta just block out your mind and just keep going, just keep giving it your all. And kind of like you said, when you start feeling like was that my best? I don't know. Those are the ones you end up booking. So now I'm going to have to start having that mentality for everything. Like, man, I did horrible on that one.
I want to book that. I
Yeah.
want to do that. I really want that job. Um, The last part that I want to talk to you about is just like relationships,
Mhm.
interpersonal relationships, friendships, um, relationships with significant others. How does that come into play, or how does that positively or adversely affect your journey on your creative career?
Um, I think it can play a little mix of both. When you're having great relationships, I feel like it's going to resonate through your work, and then when things are kind of going rocky, it can be a distraction. I've been blessed that I have such a supportive friend group and people in my life that do support every single thing I do. You know, I got to say, there's been no jealousy amongst my friend group. Even though a number of us are doing the same thing, they're right there in my corner. I'm right there in their corner. So I think just surrounding yourself with the right people, I think is going to be so positive for your outcome.
Do you want the family, the kids? Is that part of your journey?
Oh, for sure. For sure. It's like it's funny because I always feel like people will create an idea like, nah, he probably doesn't want that. He wants to be like this playboy, things like that. I was blessed to grow up in a household with both parents, and just seeing that the love they were able to give us, I would love to give that same thing to someone else, both kids as well as a wife. So eventually, I would love to, have a wife, kids. Um, you know, I don't like to use the word settle down, but I guess settle down. I don't believe in settling,
No
uh,
settling.
but you know what I mean. Like, settle down, have that person, but it has to be the right person. And I mean, right now, and dating in LA can be kind of weird. Um, I think everybody has some horror stories,
We're
but
both on that app.
yeah,
Thanks.
right. But
That app that people try to get onto.
yeah, right. We're not giving no placements
We're
here.
not, no.
But I think it is something that will come eventually when the time is right.
Right.
I think, you know, like you said, this is kind of like a Christian podcast at this point. With God's timing, he knows when is right.
He
So
does.
I think, when you kind of like frustrated in that regard, like, man, I haven't found my person, and like my life would be so much easier if I did. It's just like God saying, like, listen, man, like, you got work to do on yourself. You also got to be happy with yourself too, and where you are, and comfortable with where you are. And that's something I truly believe in. I would hate to, try to bring somebody into my life that I see as someone long term, and I'm not my best self. So I think that's also really important as well, not just for you, but also the other person. They also have to, to give love, you have to love yourself. So, I think that's really important.
I do too, and I think it's about balance. I've been so career focused and career driven, I haven't even given that other thing a chance.
Hmm.
So I think it's important to also just, it might be out there. Don't close
Exactly.
yourself off to it.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I don't try to close myself off to it, especially now, like 31. So I'm like, all right, I'm a lot more open to it than when I was like probably in my 20s. And I was like, okay, I see what impression I might have been giving off. Or I look back and I'm like, yeah, you weren't really practicing what you were preaching. But, now is definitely something I try not to close myself off to. You know, give people a chance. But like you said, I think we're so driven and so focused on what we want to do and where we want to be that
Right.
sometimes we're not giving that our full attention.
Okay. So now
Mhm.
I have to, the closing thing, I have to ask you, and you can say both of them or either one of them. What would you be in? What is like the perfect
Ooh,
role for you? I have my own thing that I think I want you to be in, but I want to
okay.
know what yours is. Or is there someone that you need to be on screen with?
Okay. Whew. Can it be more than one answer?
Yeah,
Okay,
for
great.
sure, for sure.
So obviously, given the athletic background, gotta, not to hype myself up, but given the physique, gotta be a Marvel or DC. DC, if you're watching this, I'm just saying, Static Shock. So playing a superhero for sure, I think would definitely be up on my list. But honestly, it's funny because I get this question all the time, like, oh, would you ever cut your hair? Like, would you ever cut your locks off? And honestly, it would have to be the right role, gonna be a feature, director, things like that. But if someone gave me the opportunity to play like Muhammad Ali, in like a major feature. Like let's say they were redoing Ali for sure. So playing someone iconic, I think, would also be a dream role of mine. And to answer your question about sharing the screen with somebody, I think I got to go with my man Michael B. Jersey boy, you know, I feel like we are very similar in different ways. Like I've watched a lot of his interviews and just the way he answers questions, his thought process, the way he attacks different things. I can see a lot of similarities there, and I just respect his craft, the way he's risen to stardom and as fast as he has done it. He's definitely someone I look up to in the industry and someone I would love to be in a movie with.
Yeah, mine was going to be you have to be in the next Creed movie with him. That was
Thank
going to be
you.
mine
Thank
anyway.
you.
So that's exactly
and
it.
and honestly, like I have been manifesting Creed 4. I have ideas for that. We could talk about this
We
off
just,
screen.
no.
We could talk about it off screen. Michael B, if you watching, I got some ideas, brother. You hit me up.
Look, I have been manifesting two things that aren't yet out yet. Bewitched, Kenya Barris has the rights to
Ooh,
it, and I want to play Samantha. Kenya Barris, Samantha,
okay.
Bewitched. And then Ryan Murphy is doing a chorus line. So, and I don't know if it's going to be a movie or a
Okay.
TV show, but Ryan Murphy, a chorus line, dancer, former professional dancer.
That would be
So
amazing.
those are
That
mine.
would be amazing. I do love that idea of Bewitched though. Something
I
like I
would
haven't seen
love
that since like
that.
the Nick at Night days.
Right? And then
And
to
I'm
have an
like,
African American character
that's
as
what I
the
was gonna
lead.
say. That would be amazing. And the fact that Kenya Barris has that,
He has it. It's
I did
in
not know that.
his, because I go through his IMDb of what he
Okay.
has, and Ryan Murphy's a lot, and those are the ones.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like we're very similar in that capacity.
Right.
I know Michael B has Static Shock, so I was like, come on, that's perfect for me. There's also a number of other superheroes more than happy to pitch to DC or Marvel, but Creed 4 has big manifestation right
Well,
there.
I'm sure we're going to see big things from you. Tell everybody where to find you.
Of course. So you can follow me on all my social media, both Instagram and TikTok, at T_Prince15.
Yay. Okay. So thank you for listening and or watching Paging Creatives, a supporting community of artists of all kinds. Please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel and creatives. You bring art to the world. It brings light and love, and it makes it a better place. I love you. Keep creating. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you for
Yay.
having me.
All right.